Welcome to week 2 of our message series, Be Like, where we're talking about how we were made to be in the image of Christ and how we're meant to imitate him. Last week we opened this topic by making the statement that we are meant to bring Christ into the world by being Christ in the world, by rolling up our sleeves and by getting to work on the mission of Jesus Christ. By becoming more like Christ, we can reflect what he is like to a world that is desperately searching for him. This week, I want to talk about our minds and how our minds are a vital tool for us to reach this goal. The mind is far more than just an essential organ in the body. It's how we perceive and interpret the world that God has given to us. It is the center of our personality, our memory, and our intellect. And without the mind, you don't get very far. Fitness buffs and mindfulness practitioners alike will spout off motivational quotes because they've realized something, that you've got to partner with the mind to reach the goal. It's not just a physical game, it's a mental game too. The same is true of us in trying to be more like Christ. If our mind isn't trained to think about this goal properly, it'll seem like an impossible goal to achieve. In fact, your mind may happen to be your worst enemy right now when it comes to this. But it doesn't have to stay that way. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Throughout this series, we are exploring St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians. And to help us out today, we're going to dig into the 4th chapter of St. Paul's letter, which reads, "Brothers and sisters, now this I affirm and insist on in the Lord. You must no longer live as the Gentiles live, in the futility of their minds. That is not the way you learned about Christ." So futility means uselessness or ineffectiveness. Paul is basically saying that the Ephesians, whom he's writing this letter to, aren't really using their brains. And he's not trying to insult their intelligence here, but he's trying to challenge them to use their minds as a tool to help them live more successfully. He's proposing a threefold partnership of body, mind, and soul, all united to the same purpose and actively striving towards it, becoming more like Christ in every aspect of your being. In the next few verses, he explains what this is supposed to look like. Take a look at point number 1. Put away your former way of life, your old self, corrupt and deluded by its lusts. So Paul here is proposing lifestyle change. He says, listen, your old way of doing things was clearly not working for you. It was corrupted, lustful, and delusional. So leave all of that behind. Now, while that might sound a bit harsh, he actually makes an excellent point here. Let's try something today. I want you to imagine, put your thinking caps on. I want you to imagine today that you are holding on to a large and heavy box. Just imagine that. You're holding on to a large and heavy box. Now I come along and I ask you to hold on to something else for me. Let's say that it's an antique vase, an expensive one. Now you can try to carefully balance this precious artifact on top of your giant box, or you can put the box down and hold on to the vase. Well, it's the same way with our faith. You know, our faith is a treasure. But if you try to hold on to your faith and all of these sins and bad habits and wrongful ways of thinking, well, something's got to give. To think like Christ, you must first set aside all the things that you're holding on to that aren't helping you and that have not been working for you. Let's face it, we all have negative thought patterns that have come to us and have become the norm in our life. We often get caught in these cycles when we accept all the small little lies that the world throws our way. And the world does throw a lot of little lies our way. Maybe you continuously seem to miscommunicate with your spouse or with your loved one. And so eventually you go into every conversation with them defensively, looking for a fight. You have accepted the lie that they don't have your best interests at heart and that you're somehow unlovable because you're fighting. Maybe your job is one that can get pretty monotonous, so eventually you put in less effort and passion. You have accepted the lie that your work is not making a difference and that it's pointless. Maybe you're struggling with a destructive habit and you tend to give in to it more and more these days because you've just been fighting for so long, but nothing seems to change. You've accepted the lie that you are powerless to change your circumstances. But you are not powerless. You're not pointless, and you're definitely not unlovable. These are all just lies that you've accepted. And guess what? Nobody is forcing you to hold on to these lies. There is no lie, big or small, that you are being forced to keep believing. And if you choose, right now, today, you can let go of them and put away that old way of thinking. Clean up shop for a new way of thinking and a new way of living. The next step is this: be renewed in the spirit of your minds. Be renewed in the spirit of your minds. Paul wants us to have new life breathed into our minds. After a long time of living under corruptions and delusions, it makes sense. We need a refresher, a reminder of how life is supposed to be lived, of what we're meant to be thinking about. In a different letter, which we've heard from before, Paul gives a whole list of suggested topics of thought, things to turn our mind toward. Check this out. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. That's like a breath of fresh air. When we actively change our thinking, we are rewriting the script of how we interpret the world. And this is actually a very well-founded suggestion. People find themselves much more successful at what they're trying to accomplish when they redefine their thinking about it. In fact, that's so important, I'm going to say it again. People find themselves much more successful at what they're trying to accomplish when they redefine their thinking about it. We do that for fitness goals and relationship goals and career goals. So why not do the same thing for our spiritual goals? Why not hit the reset button on the ways that you think about faith? After setting ourselves on these two tasks, ridding ourselves of our old harmful thought patterns and establishing some new ones, St. Paul has one last task for us to do. Check this out. Clothe yourselves with the new man, created according to the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. So essentially, St. Paul is saying, own it. Own the new creation that you are becoming in Christ. Own that. Because this new creation was made according to the likeness of God. If you are fulfilling God's desire for you, if you're becoming Christ-like in your mind, let that spill out into your actions. Let that spill out into your workplace. Let it spill out into your relationships, into your home, and into your goals. True change is made manifest in action. So let your actions speak for yourself. Show people what the mind of Christ is like by taking every stray thought captive, by renewing your mind, and by letting that renewal and grace shine out and edify the people around you. Becoming more like Christ in your mind disposes you to do the same thing for your body, in your soul, and in your life. And by doing that, you are fulfilling the mission given to you by Christ.